Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body confidence. So, most people think you're either born with confidence or you're not. But the good news is, I am going to show you that that is simply not true. This month, we're going to explore what it's like to live confidently in your body, no matter your shape, your size, your age, your weight. It is going to be good. So, what do you say? Let's hop into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey y'all, it is Mary Hyatt. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can tell that I'm here in my home because it is snowing or sleeting here in Nashville. So the sound is going to be a little different. My environment looks a little different, but I have a fabulous episode for you today with another amazing guest, Kairah James. Y'all, Kairah is a body confidence and health coach. I know you're going to love her. We have such a great conversation around the mindset around body confidence and how nutrition and fitness sort of play a role in all of that. Her mission is to help empower women feel confident through mindset, through nutrition, through fitness. And she's been on such a cool journey. She'll share in detail about it. But she was studying to be a doctor at university and realized halfway through getting her degree in health sciences that that was not what she wanted to do. So without knowing what she was going to do afterwards or what to do with her degree, she found herself in a gym working with a trainer who helped her realize what she was capable of. And it was through that experience, it was just so profound for her that she decided to start helping other women herself unleash their full potential. So get ready for a practical and just really hopeful conversation. And I'm excited for you to meet Kairah James. So here is our conversation. Enjoy. Hey guys, it is Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited to be with you on our final episode of this month's topic, which y'all know has been all about body confidence. And I'm so thrilled to be introducing you to our final guest this month here in a couple minutes. But before I do that, I want to make sure to remind you to go back and listen to previous episodes in this month's topic of body confidence, because there are so many good ones. The first, I kind of started with the foundation of looking at what is body confidence and really taking a moment to get into my 5 steps of how to feel confident in your body, and kind of looking at other times in your life when you felt that way and kind of creating your own recipe, which was really fun. And then the second episode, I had my dear friend, Amy Porterfield, come on the show, and I hope y'all absolutely loved her. She is so fun. She is unbelievably successful, but she has a new limited series podcast that came out called Talking Body. And we got into that a little bit. We talked about just what it takes to have the courage to show up and be seen, even when you're not happy in your skin or you're not satisfied with your weight or whatever, but how you can show up and still in the midst of that, shift your focus and really show up and allow yourself to be seen in the world. And then last week we had Natalie Wilson on the show, who is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. And so she talks about what it's like to be confident when you've had surgery, when your breasts have been removed as a woman, and what that is like journeying through trauma in your body and still showing up in your body in romantic relationships and intimacy. And that was a really powerful episode. But today I've got the lovely Kairah on. Hey girl, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Fantastic. I am just so excited you're on the show because, as I told everybody kind of in your intro, you are a body confidence coach, you're a health coach, and I feel like you're going to give us some good tips on this whole mindset piece to the puzzle. But I'm curious where you started this journey, because I feel like this wasn't what you started out thinking you were going to do, right?
No, not at all. So when I first got into fitness, it was really a way for me to like have someone to help me feel more confident in my body. And I had this idea of what that looked like. And initially it was really about changing the physical appearance. I thought, okay, look at all these girls on Instagram. They seem so confident. I want to look like them so I can be confident too. So I ended up going to the gym, getting a personal trainer, the whole thing. At the time, I was also trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life because I was halfway through my degree in health sciences and completely had a career shift. So it's kind of like having a little bit of a crisis there. But I thought that ultimately working out and changing my body was going to make me feel more confident. And in the process, I really came to the realization that it was all about the mindset. It wasn't about how I looked, because even when I was super lean, had all these muscles, was training super hard, I still didn't feel that sense of confidence. And it wasn't until I was able to take a step back and evaluate, okay, well, what does confidence really mean to me? And what do I see, or what do I want to feel when I look in the mirror, that I began to understand what truly embodying body confidence was all about. And so when I started my coaching practice, that was what I knew I wanted to do, was help women to understand, what they're truly capable of and what it feels like to be truly at home in your own skin.
This is such a brilliant concept, because I think the misunderstanding is that if you're skinny, you're going to love your body. And if you can just get to the point when you're small, or in your case, toned or fit or all of that, that the aesthetic, the physical external picture will somehow change your brain. And all of a sudden you're going to love yourself and you're going to feel confident, which any woman in their right mind knows that's not true. There are plenty of thin women who probably are listening right now who feel insecure or feel inadequate in their body for some reason. And there are women who have lost significant weight, who thought that was sort of the promise, and they're still feeling insecure. So talk to me about how you learned what true confidence was. Because I think that in and of itself, the definition of confidence, body confidence, kind of travel through mentally to get to the point of how would you define body confidence for yourself?
I think initially I felt a lot of guilt around not feeling confident, because I would always get those remarks, oh, you're so skinny, or you're so this. So I felt like I have no, I'm not able to complain, I guess that was the sense, or I'm not able to share in the fact that I don't feel super confident, because people look at me and they think I should feel that way. And so I really struggled with that in the beginning. Who do I share this with, or how do I really start to uncover, this? Because I felt guilty for not feeling confident because I am in a smaller body. So once I was able to work through that guilt and shame of just not feeling confident, I really had to look within myself and think of, what does confidence mean to me? And who are women in my life that I feel are super confident, and what characteristics, really draw me to them? And one woman who I love and adore and who is super confident has always been my mom. She walks into a room and just, people just love her and look to her. She's always been a huge leader. And so for me, I'm like, well, what are those characteristics that she has that make me feel like she just embodies a sense of confidence? And it was ultimately just that inner strength that she carries herself with. The way that she walks into a room as well. It's not like her shoulders are down, she just walks in, and the way that she's able to talk to people and just be herself in any space. And I really admired that. And so I realized that for myself, okay, I can be confident. And I know you mentioned this in your podcast. Sometimes you have to act as if you already are. And so that's how I started out, just acting as if I was already that super confident Kairah. And eventually that was just my truth. That's just how I felt. But in the beginning, it was definitely challenging, and I kind of had to play pretend for a little bit there.
I love this so much, because this is I'm getting to witness kind of what we talked about in the first episode, you're fleshing this out. And I talked about that, finding that role model essentially. And I love that it's your mom, because most of us, like our mothers weren't that example of confidence. They were the opposite. They were like, we learned, at least I can speak for myself. And I know a lot of the clients I work with, like learn from their mothers how to hate their bodies, how to look at their bodies with disgust in the mirror and like pinch and pull and feel awkward in their skin. And so what a beautiful gift to have that from your mom and get to see that. And I'm curious, was that normal, like family culture for you, or was that unique to your mom? Like, did your aunts, maybe your cousins or your grandmother, was that normal to have that kind of confidence, or was that like something that your mom just sort of learned throughout her life, do you think?
I think it's definitely something that she learned throughout her life, just because of how she grew up. There's just, I guess I'm blessed to have so many strong women in my life, because my grandmother, on my dad's side, is also like that, very independent, very confident, you know, she does her own thing. And so I just grew up seeing these examples of confidence, and not that they ever made me feel like, you know, I had to be confident because of the way I looked. I think that was also a big piece, is that when they were talking about me in terms of my character and things that I bring to the table, it was never really physical. It wasn't like, oh, you're a pretty girl or you're a skinny girl or anything like that. And so just growing up that way and seeing just these different examples of strength and confidence in my life definitely helped. But at the same time, there's still those social pressures. And so when I got to university, I wasn't really thinking about my mom or my grandma or what confidence was.
Totally.
I was thinking like, I don't, you know, measure up to these women around me and to the women online. And so I still struggled with that, even though I did grow up with these strong examples of confident women.
Okay, so this is kind of an interesting question, because having never lived in a really small body, I cannot relate to that piece of your story. But so I'm curious, because I do know, like, because of beautiful body diversity, we have many thin people who listen to the podcast. And I think it's kind of cool. Like, typically I bring in women who have larger bodies, who identify as fat, very positively, and body diversity. But it's so cool to get to talk to you on the flip side of this coin, who lives in a smaller body. So when you were at university, was there still a pressure to lose weight, or was it the opposite? Or did you wish you were curvier? Like, what was that like as far as how you should be in your body in order to be sexy or loved or whatever?
Right. I went through both phases. I think in the beginning, I was like, I just need to be lean. That was the thing. It was just like, I need to be lean. I need to be a lower body fat percentage. That was really big for me. But then it got to a point where, you know, the trend kind of changed online.
Right.
And it was like, okay, people are gaining weight. And it was all about having like a bigger booty and then like a slim waist. And so it was like, okay, now I have to train glutes more. I have to do this to fit that aesthetic. And I just one day thought, well, why do I keep kind of changing my goal? And is it even really my goal? Am I just trying to fit the mold, or is this something that I want for myself? And in becoming a health coach and a body confidence coach more recently, that was one of the big things for me. It was, do I want to help women reach their physical goals? Yes, absolutely. But I want to make sure that they're their goals, right? And that ultimately, this is not about fitting what society says is beautiful or what society says, you know, is curvy and sexy, but them in their own mind coming up with what that means, what that is to them, what their goal is, and helping them to achieve that in a sustainable way. I think that's really important.
This is tricky. And I talk about this with my girlfriends all the time, because I love this idea that you're saying, like, is this really my goal? Like the fact that I want to have more toned arms or a bigger booty or whatever, like, is that really coming from something inside of me that would, I don't even know, like help me feel more confident or even just healthier, you know? So there's that sort of going on. But then what I talk about with my girlfriends is it possible, and I would love your take on this, like, is it possible for us as women to know what is true, like our true voice of how we want our bodies to look, without there being some kind of very stealthy influence of like the porn industry, diet culture, fashion industry. Like, I'm like, can we really get all the way back to that voice inside of ourselves that is truly us when we're thinking about our bodies? Or do you feel like there's always going to be some kind of interference?
I think it's challenging because we're always bombarded with these outside pressures and sources. And I think ultimately what you have to ask yourself is why? Why do I want this? And if you can't really come up with a good reason why, then I don't think it is your own goal. Because if it was, you'd have this passion behind it. When it comes to health, ultimately, a lot of us might start with having a physical goal. Yeah, I want to maybe lose or gain or whatever it is for you. But then when you ask yourself why, there's normally a deeper meaning. Maybe you want more energy to run around with your kids or, something like that. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense to me. That's why. But when it comes to, like in my example, gaining, having a bigger butt, why? I couldn't really come up with anything other than, that's what other girls have. And that's what people seem to lean towards or guys seem to like. And that wasn't a strong enough sense of why for myself. And so that's how I was able to make a distinction. Well, maybe that's not really my goal. Maybe that's just something that I've led to believe is something that I should desire for myself.
Man, this is it's like such a fine line, right? Because in some ways I'm like, let's say that the only reason why was because it was going to allow for you to feel more feminine, sexier, more attractive. Like, I'm putting on like my coaching brain here for a second to be like, if I could step out of judgment of that, like assuming that wanting to feel sexy, assuming that our desire to feel attractive is wrong or bad or unhealthy. Like, if we took the judgment and just said like, is that such a bad thing? Like, and I know there's varying degrees of this, right? So it's like,
for sure.
I think about breast implants as a really great example, because I feel like for some women, it does allow them to feel more confident getting breast implants. For others, it's a very unhealthy trying to fit themselves into a box to be desirable or lovable when they don't feel that way inside. But I think, obviously no one can judge that for anyone else, but it is interesting to think about that, isn't it? Like, is it bad to want to feel beautiful or sexy? Like, how do you handle that when women come in and really feel like, well, I do want a bigger booty. Like, I feel like I'll be more confident with that. How do you address that with some of your clients?
For sure. If someone comes to me having a goal like that, ultimately I'm going to help them do that because that's what they want to do. That's what's going to allow them to feel more confident at the time that they're coming in. That's fine. Yeah. While we're working together, we'll definitely unpack the mindset piece though. And I think that along the journey, people will come to realization of maybe that's not my goal, and it will be something that's kind of tossed to the side and we'll work on something else. Or no, this is something that I still really want, and that's fine as long as it's coming from the right mindset, I think. If it's something that you're doing for yourself to feel more beautiful, to feel confident, to feel sexy, that's fine. But if it's something that maybe you're doing to please someone else, I think that's where it can get really tricky, because if that someone else somehow leaves your life, then what, right? Are you still going to feel like it was worth it? Did you put in the work for somebody else or for yourself? And I think that's why self-love and just body love is so important, because this is, the only body that we have. And I think that any form of love has to start with you just really loving yourself as a person first. And everything else kind of flows from that.
Totally. I couldn't agree with that more. I love that. And I'm glad you brought up the mindset piece, because this is like your specialty. Like, you get into the inner workings of what's happening between the ears. And when I think about body confidence, to me, it's a mental game, like through. So when you think about mindset as it relates to body confidence, how do you see the intersection of both of those things working together?
I think mindset is definitely the foundation, because body confidence, like we've talked about, isn't just about how you look, but how you feel in your own skin. And so one of the exercises that I really like to practice to begin to cultivate body confidence, especially on those days when may not be how I'm feeling right off the bat, is to just look at myself in the mirror and just say the first three things that come to mind.
Mm.
And hopefully they're positive. And if they're not, that's when I do a little bit more of a deeper dive. Okay, well, those aren't the most things I could have said about myself. What are three positive things that I can say about myself? And it's not just physical in terms of how I look, but what are the three things that I could positively say about myself? And just kind of going from that place. I think mindset is huge when it comes to body confidence, because ultimately, the way that we think about ourselves is going to manifest in the way that we carry ourselves and interact with other people.
Totally.
And I think about, when we're younger, before we have a whole bunch of different influences, it's very unlikely to see a little girl, being so negative or having a whole bunch of negative self-talk unless she's already seen that or experienced that around her. And so sometimes I have to be like, okay, well, what would little Kairah say? Or how would I talk to a little girl like this? And why am I talking to myself like this? But I think mindset is huge because it does affect the way that we carry ourselves and the way that other people also end up seeing us.
Yeah. First of all, I love inner child work, like in general, but I love inner child work as it relates to a relationship with our body. Cause you're absolutely right. Like, hatred towards our body is something that we have learned. It is not like our natural way of relating. And I love that idea of like, when you can't think about what you love about your body, going back to that little self, that little Mary, that little Kairah, and being like, okay, like, how would I see myself? And I can just picture I have 8 nieces and nephews. And I can picture all of them when they were little, they would have like, that little baby belly, and they would like go into the mirror and they would just be enamored with their image, with themselves, and just their essence. And it's so precious. And I think that we have lost that skill set of knowing what it's like to look in the mirror and to really praise ourselves, to admire ourselves, to really see ourselves. And often, you're right, we see everything that could possibly be wrong. Our thighs are too big, we have too much cellulite, our boobs are too saggy, whatever it is, like we instantly go to those things. And I love that. I think in this idea of mindset, it is a practice. And we've said that throughout the series this month, over in every episode, as we come back to this idea of like this being a practice, because you may be in a cycle that's really negative towards your body. And so you're going to have to practice noticing those negative thoughts and then finding and, choosing to practice new thinking, new ways of relating to your body. So when you have clients who come in like for specifically health and wellness, like, are there ways that you help them create new awareness to even like know how they think about their body? Because most of us, it's just so normal to hate ourselves that we don't even think about how much we hate ourselves. So how do you like help your clients learn that, oh, this is going on here. There's a lot of self-hatred here.
Yeah. One exercise that I really like, it's kind of playing off of that, act as if, but I ask them to imagine themselves at the end goal, whether that's like a physical end goal, a mental end goal, just like how, what's your life look like 3, 6, 12 months from now? And then look at their life today and draw the line between where it is that they are now and where it is that they want to be. And figure out, well, okay, why are you not here right now? What is there mindset blocks? Is there blocks in terms of nutrition or habits with movement? What are the things that we can start doing today so that you can start to show up as this end goal? And when we can see the difference between who it is that we are and who it is that we want to be, I think for some of my clients, that's when they realize, oh, okay, there is something here that I maybe need to work on when it comes to mindset. Because it's funny, a lot of people don't come to me wanting to work on their mindset. They don't really think of that. It's kind of like exercise, nutrition. But for me, I really understand the importance of mindset, and that once you're able to make that work and to, put those pieces together, everything else falls into place. Everything else becomes easier because you're operating from this understanding of where you are and what you need to do in order to get where you want to be.
So good. So good. Like being able to see that on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that anybody
Yeah.
can do. Like right now, you can jot this out after we get off, grab a journal.
Absolutely.
And, I think what's profound, and this is something that I geek out over and teach and practice myself, is this idea of our future self. This idea
Mm-hmm.
of who we want to be in our future, whether that's in our body, our business, our relationship, whatever. But I love that you said earlier that so much of this is about how do you want to feel in your body?
Yeah.
And that's not how do you want to look in your body? How do you want to feel in your body? What are some of the things that women say when you ask them that question? Like, how do they want to feel?
One of the ones that comes up all the time is they want to feel confident.
Yeah.
They want to feel beautiful. One that doesn't come up as often, but when it does, it's like, oh, we got to dive into that. They want to feel worthy. They want to feel loved. And, when you start to dive into those deeper things, I think it's really powerful when someone can come to the realization of, hey, yeah, I don't feel worthy. And why is that? How can we start to really unpack that? But I think confidence is definitely the number one thing that women will say to me is they want to feel confident in their body. They want to be able to go shopping without feeling anxiety.
Yes.
They want to be able to eat what they want without feeling guilty afterwards. Some of those more practical things. But confidence is huge.
In my opinion, I'm like, you can't have confidence without worthiness. Like,
yes.
To me, in order to be able to walk around, and like you said at the very beginning when you were talking about your mom, she was just who she was. Like she was embodying body confidence. And it's like that comes from a sense of being worthy, feeling like you are enough in order to be like confidently walk through life. Because the opposite to me, if we think about like the opposite of confidence, it's feeling like you aren't good enough. Your body isn't good enough. Something is flawed, that you don't deserve acceptance or love or whatever, insert the desired outcome. And so that worthiness really is a prerequisite for confidence. Like in a way, I'm thinking, gosh, that really is birthed out of confidence, is birthed out of feeling worthy in who we are, regardless if anything changes, like regardless if anything aesthetically changes on your body. To me, I'm just like kind of having this epiphany of thinking confidence isn't a moving target. Like you don't get more confident or less confident. It's like, it's a state of our worthiness. Like we're always worthy. So we should always be confident. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. I've never really thought of it that way, but you're so right. Confidence comes from this feeling of I am enough, I am worthy, and I'm going to carry myself like that. It's a really cool realization, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is really neat to think about. And I want to like transition a little bit because so much of the work that you do is with health and fitness. And I want to talk about the role that plays into embodying self-confidence. And I love that word, like embodying self-confidence. So talk to me about that, because I think there's a lot of triggers around this topic. And so it's tricky to talk about it. And I feel like you're such a great point person for this because you have a very holistic view of a person. So what is the role that health and fitness play in embodying that body confidence?
For sure. So when it comes to body confidence, when you imagine yourself showing up as your most confident self, the biggest piece, I think, in terms of the connection between body confidence and fitness and nutrition is energy. Your most confident self has this type of energy, this joie de vivre, just this excitement for life. And for us as human beings, that energy comes from the food that we eat and what we put into our body. And I don't think it's about necessarily following a particular diet. Everyone has their own preferences. It's not about being restrictive, but eating foods that make you feel good, whatever that is. And then also making sure that your body gets the nutrients that it needs. And sometimes we can overcomplicate this. I say to my clients, eat the rainbow, just start there. Eat the rainbow, eat some different colored vegetables. But ultimately find the foods that make you feel good afterwards. If you find that you eat certain foods and you don't feel great, you feel kind of crappy, maybe eat those foods a little bit less. I don't have to be super tricky, but nutrition definitely plays a role in terms of the energy. And it's the same thing with fitness as well. I don't think you have to, run hours a day if you don't like to, or lift heavy weights if you don't like to. Find a way to move your body every day that feels good to you, that gives you that energy, that picks you up. And just starting with what you like to eat and how you love to move your body is a great place to start, because it just plays into that whole concept of confidence and having energy and being able to carry yourself a certain way.
Totally. And, I've been on such a journey of this personally, because living in a much larger body and then kind of working my journey through intuitive eating, and really finding, I remember like with intuitive eating, there's no good foods or bad foods. You really are getting into the intuition of your body. But I love the part about gentle nutrition, about really like starting to experiment to see, like the way I interpret it is how good can I feel? Instead of what is it that I should eat because somebody is telling me this, or this is going to help me lose weight. It's like, what feels good? Exactly what you're talking about. And I love that because then it takes all the pressure off of having to get the right plan and all of that. And it really helps you get in touch with my particular chemistry. These foods work really great with my chemistry, and there's foods that don't. Like there are plenty of people that might be eating the perfect healthy diet, but they still feel like crap, So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
If we can really slow down, even with movement, like I know for me, I had to, going back to the mindset piece, totally change my mindset around fitness, because I grew up thinking fitness was punishment for what you ate. Fitness was like the penance that you paid to burn off the calories that you had the night before. And that meant you were being good because yesterday you were bad. And so you would go to the gym, sweat it off. And it was like making sure you're playing that good girl rule. And as I got older, I completely rebelled against that. I was like, no way in hell are you going to get me in a gym? Like I was, oh my God, it would just make my skin crawl. I was so triggered by it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I shifted my mindset to reassociate my relationship with fitness that now I crave it, because I love feeling confident in my body, in its like I love feeling strong in my body. Like to me, my body, I will tell you, I work out at the gym 3-4 times a week, probably now. Now, let me just tell you, my physical body, because I've lost and gained so much weight back and forth in my history, I have a lot of extra skin, all of that. So underneath, maybe my muscle tone has changed, but you can't visibly see it a whole lot. Like it doesn't like, you don't look at it, oh my God, like she is ripped. But let me just tell you, I am so freaking strong. Like my core is so strong. I can lift heavy weights. Like I love feeling confident that my body can do more and more and more. It's so cool to me to see. And it's not caught up in the aesthetic. It really is like, I feel confident because my body is strong. And that is a cool feeling. I love that.
For sure. Yes. It's realizing what your body is capable of too, right? Because I think a lot of the times, especially as women, we can underestimate ourselves, but our bodies are capable of so much more than we may even imagine or dream of. And so when you have those experiences where it's like, whoa, I lifted a lot more weight than I thought I could, or I ran, an extra mile, more than I thought I would, and all these different types of things, it's like, wow, like, look what I can do, look what my body can do. And you're right, it makes you feel confident in your body because you just feel strong, even though it may not look so externally. You feel that internally, and that's ultimately what matters most.
Well, and I'm just thinking, the space inside the gym to me is like a metaphor for life, always. Like, it's basically, there's every time I go, there are moments when I think I cannot do this. Like I'm not strong enough. I can't keep going. I want to give up. Like I go through the whole cycle of self-doubt and fear, and to be able to move through to the other side of that and to know that I can do hard things. And like you said, I surprise myself with my body. There's nothing to me that makes me feel more confident that then I can take that metaphor into life and say, whatever it is outside of the physical body, I can do hard things. Like I've proven to myself that when it gets tough and I want to give up, I still have more left to give. And that's a really interesting mindset shift to see how it can go from, you know, inside of the gym to a metaphor to take off the mat, so to speak, in your real life. You see that with your clients as well, that it starts to affect other areas of their life?
For sure. When I first started coaching, I think I was very like tunnel vision in terms of the goals that my clients had. And so it was really focusing on, I guess, the metrics, you know, the things that we measure. But once, I guess my first few clients, once you kind of get to the testimonial phase, I found it really surprising that a lot of them weren't even talking about maybe the weight loss or the physical changes, but it was more like the mindset piece. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And so one time I got a message from a client months after we finished working together and said, I wore a bikini to the water park for the first time. And I didn't feel self-conscious. And those to me are like the big wins, because it wasn't really about anything else. It's the fact that she has the confidence now to wear what she wants. She wants to wear a bikini, but before she didn't, you know, to do that. Or another client saying, I was able to look at my wedding photos and not point out that back fat right away. She was able to point out other things that she liked about herself. And then sure, the back fat was still there, but it wasn't the first thing that she pointed to. And so it's just that, like we've been talking about, the mindset shift, the way that they see themselves in other areas and in other social events, the confidence that they have. The things used to trigger them that don't anymore. Being able to go to social events or to enjoy holidays and anniversaries and eat what they want and not feel guilty afterwards. Or like you had mentioned, having this thought that I need to exercise extra hard tomorrow to enjoy this meal with my family today. Those are the things and the changes and the transformations that last a lifetime, because it's not just about, you know, the here and now. It's about the changes and the sustainability of what they're able to carry with them forward.
Yeah. Oh God, I've experienced that in my own life. And the best way I can describe it is freedom. Like when you move out of that hyper-focused hatred towards your body or disgust of your body or insecurity to confidence. And it is something I talked about this in the first episode about how it's a skill set. Like you can learn confidence. You're not born with it or without it. So everyone can get here. Is that when you get to that place and you aren't obsessing negatively about your body, it is the most liberating thing to be able to walk into like a room of people or to go to vacation in a bathing suit or whatever, and just be in the present and enjoy yourself without focusing so much on your body. Like that to me, to have freedom of that going on in my head is motivation always for me to keep doing this work and challenging my thoughts, challenging the way I'm thinking and relating to my body, because I always want to get to that place, talk about feeling good. Like body confidence isn't just a thing because it's, again, what we should do. It feels really good. It's like, it is freedom. And I'm so glad you shared those stories of your clients, because it's hopeful. It's like, oh, okay, we can get there too. As we kind of wrap up, and I feel like we could just keep going and going and going. I would love to know, are there any other like tips or words of advice, anything that you want to share that we didn't get to as it relates to the mindset work that you do, or anything else that you want to share?
I think one thing that's really a powerful practice for people who are just kind of maybe getting started with the body confidence work, especially on the mindset aspects of things, are affirmations. And we touched on this in the beginning, acting as if you already are and thinking about your future self and how you want to show up. but actually writing down those characteristics of what does my most confident self look like or feel like rather, and writing that down. I actually did this with one of my most recent clients, and I wrote down 5 different affirmations that we had discussed that she wanted to do. And I just created a small little graphic that she could put as the lock screen on her phone. Something as simple as that. I am confident. I am beautiful. I am worthy. I love my body. Things like that. Just start to say them every single day. And in the beginning, it might be a little funny. You might feel weird. You're like, I don't really feel this. But the more that you hear yourself saying it, and you touched on this in your episode as well, like you're actually going to start to believe that and to embody that, right? So that's one thing that everyone can start with. It's just thinking of what does my most confident self look like, feel like, how does she carry herself? And just writing down maybe 3 or 5 affirmations that you can repeat to yourself every day, throughout the day, just to really start that mindset piece.
I love that idea of putting it on your phone. So you literally think about how many times you're looking at your phone throughout the day. It's a perfect place to put it. Yep. And I like the nuance because I think affirmations are good up until a point, because if your brain doesn't believe it, it's like, it's BS. But what I love what you're saying about this is imagine your future self. Imagine how she would think, how she would feel. So you can kind of tell yourself, like, I might not feel this yet, but my future self thinks this. My future self feels this way.
Exactly.
And that's cool, because then it's exciting. It's like, here's my roadmap. Here's where I'm headed. I know I don't feel this yet or believe this yet or think this yet, but this is the thought. This is the belief of my future self. And having that picture and that vision is so powerful. I'm so thankful you reminded everybody of that, because it's so simple. Like you said, you could literally do that tonight, throw it up on your phone. I mean, done and done. That's beautiful. And so easy. Kairah, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about your work, if they want to hire you, where can they go to find you?
My favorite place to hang out is Instagram, so you can find me there. My handle is just my name, Kairah James, Kairah James, and that's where you can find me. I love connecting with new people, especially women who have an interest in this conversation on body confidence. So always feel free to reach out and send me a message. But that's where I hang out most of the time.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes so you guys can click straight to it. And I love your Instagram page. I feel like you put so much valuable content, and it's beautiful. It's just always like, I'm an aesthetic person. So I'm always like, oh my God, this is so great. So y'all definitely go check her out. But Kairah, thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your wisdom and your experience. And I just know this is going to be like so powerful for the women listening. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love this.
All right, guys. Well, that completes our Body Confidence Month. If you haven't listened to the other episodes of this month's topic, make sure to go back and listen, because there is so much there for you in the backlog. And then next month, we're going to get into the topic of mindfulness. That's going to be our theme for March. So, we're going to take this and get deeper into how we can look at our thoughts to create a beautiful life together. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.